All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Average Ghost podcast. Once again, Dylan is unavailable to do his co-hosting job, and yes, I'm talking shit via the podcast to him right now. But I've got my good buddy Scott Lujan here with me, and Jesus Christ, fuckballs. Okay. It almost recorded on some other shit that I had on here and didn't notice, but yes, back to the bullshit intros. I got my buddy Scott Lujan here. We went to school together, ran in the same crowd. He's a friend of Sean Booth and that whole crew too, so yeah, welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good. It's great to be on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you donated some money to the podcast. I won't put you on blast and say how much, but I just wanted to give you a quick thank you and all that shit. That was pretty cool. That's going to fund the t-shirts and the web hosting and all that shit.
Hey, man, you donate things you believe in, so, I'm digging it.
Word. Well, thank you very, very much. So, yeah, growing up in Linwood, the hood, we rolled in the same crowd. So what have you been up to? Because we haven't really... when was the last time we were, like, face-to-face? Do you remember?
I think the last time I saw you, I think was, you were up here with Tess. That was 7-8 months ago, maybe. I think I might have bumped into you then for a couple of days, but outside of that, it's been a while, man. It's been a long time.
Jesus Christ. 7 or 8. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but yeah, that sounds about right. Damn. Yeah. Did we go to that the hipster bike bar? Was that with Tess or was that just me and you?
No, I think, me, you, and Sarah went. I don't remember if we brought, if Tess was there at that time, but I know we all rallied down to that, the peddler. It's funny because I tell people that I took hey, you want to go to this biker bar? and they kind of laugh and joke with me. I'm like, they're like, well, biker bar. And they show up and it's like a bunch of bicyclists and, it's a good buffer,
It's just a whole bunch of bullshit. False advertising.
Yeah. See, it's a super hipster bar. So, it's
handlebar mustaches and fucking bicycle handlebars all over the goddamn place.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit. But you were telling me when we were doing the pre-shit that you started taking the total primate care. You wanna give your little testimony on that shit? Because a lot of people think it's bullshit.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Yeah, so I kind of thought it might be bullshit. So I looked into it a little bit. I've been listening to you guys a little bit, and follow the great Joe Rogan from time to time. But I kind of decided, that I'd give it a shot, and I was trying to lose some lbs and just get my total fitness up a little bit better. And I started taking that maybe 2 months ago, man, and I've been pretty sharp. It's like at work, I was kind of I was losing focus quite a bit.
Yeah.
I started taking the Alpha Brain. I was taking the whole of the TPC, and man, I was just sharp. I had energy. If I'm suffering from the placebo, I don't care. I'm still taking it
keep it going.
Yeah. It's been amazing, so far. So, still taking it, every day, got that day pack, night pack going. So, it's good, man. It's been great.
Yeah. I'll find myself missing one of the packs. And so my shit gets off. And so I'll run out of day pack almost a week before I'll run out of night pack. That shit fucking
Yeah.
It's
that's been happening to me. Yeah. Same thing, man. Running out of days or nights. I'm like, how did what happened, dude?
There's an even amount. What the fuck is going on here? Yeah. It's some bullshit. But, yeah, Onnit's the shit, and I highly recommend that everybody check out Onnit.com, preferably through our website at averageghosts.com, because then we get a little commission check, which is pretty dope. It pays for all the work we do here. It actually paid my web hosting bill for the website, so yeah, that was pretty sick to actually be able to pay for what I'm doing with what I'm doing. That was a nice affirmation of effort.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I think anybody out there, whoever's tuning in, I think definitely give it a shot. I mean, really, you're not out a lot if you think that you're putting a huge investment in, but I guarantee you're going to get something out of that. Whether it's a lesson learned or you get like some real results, like I've been getting. And I just can't explain it from anything other than the subs himself. So.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of buddies over in Kuwait right now that actually ordered like everything that I've been recommending, so they're quite invested. But all of their results are pretty much equal to yours and mine, to where they just love the shit and they will keep taking it because it's that awesome. But anyway, enough sucking on its dick. You said you had a Noom stock story, or rather a post Noom stock story from the Booth episode.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I did. I was kind of chomping at the bit when I heard you guys dive into that. So, yeah, I was. Is it not? Should I share that? Can I share that here?
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. We talk about so much dumb shit on here and things that aren't necessarily legal that I feel like you can say whatever the fuck you want. And nobody knows the address of where Noomstock was, and if they still remember that, then they need to get a life.
Yeah, so yeah, all right. Me and another one of our friends were leaving Noomstock. So it was after the big party
shebang.
And after the show. Yeah, exactly. After the shebang. So we kind of headed off in his mom's minivan, and we were just driving. It was just a block or two away, and we pulled over, and there was like a bunch of cows and cattle pasture just off right by that property you guys had out there. And we were like, man, there's probably like some really good mushrooms out there. We're just gonna have to go
Gonna have to go sift through some shit.
Yeah, I had to sift through some shit to get out there and check it out. So we did. We climbed over the fence, man, and we didn't see any cows, but we were, I think we had our phones out. We were like, I remember it was a flip phone, and I was like trying to use the light to like kind of see what was on the ground to see if we could find anything.
Yeah.
We weren't finding anything. We got a little bit farther back to where we weren't in a grassy area anymore. It was kind of like a barn, like an open door barn.
Yeah.
And we kind of snuck around to the backside of that, thinking there might be something back there. And this is how I remember it. But we were looking on the ground, kind of totally distracted, kind of back to back, sort of in a way like Scooby Doo. You kind of back into each other. And, your body's kind of pedaling in all directions, like like some slippery sounds. Or
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I remember we were like searching, man, and it was super dark. We couldn't see anything, and I started to hear like thump, 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 thump. I was like, man, what is that? Like, what's coming? And we kind of take a few more steps, and then there's a bunch more, and it's just thump, 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 thump. It's getting faster. And so me and the guy who was there with me, we kind of turn and hightail it, like I turn and run. I look behind me, and it's just a stampede of cows coming at us.
Oh, shit.
Like 30 cows just charging me and him. And I was like, what's going on? And I was running, and there's a barbed wire fence that wrapped around it.
Oh, shit.
And I jumped right over it. It didn't hit me. But the other guy who was with me was running like as fast as he could, trying to jump over the fence. And it tore his pants all the way down the middle. So it ripped right through his boxers, man. He just had this scratch up his leg,
Jesus.
like his hang down was exposed. He didn't really have any. He was just trying to cover it up, just. But it was crazy, man. It was one of the wildest times. I just remember being like, just laughing my ass off. I couldn't stop laughing, dude. After the stampede of cows charging us while we're up to some mischief, getting into like some turds, trying to find some mushrooms. So
goddamn do-gooder cows.
Exactly, man.
This is my shit.
It was crazy, man, because Noomstock was so fun, and then right after that, we were trying to
trying to keep the party rolling with some mushrooms.
Right. Yeah. It was crazy, man.
That's fucking funny.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. It was a good time, though.
He's lucky because I ran into a barbed wire fence when I was a kid, and I've got this fucking like 4-inch long gash scar on my shin, and then a giant like quarter size chunk missing out of my hip from running into a barbed wire fence when I was little. And
Oh
like
man.
that shit went deep. Like you could see the fatty tissue coming out, and it's just gross shit. It's some barbaric stuff. But
Well, we don't know that he doesn't have that.
oh, that's true.
I mean, I never was like, "Hey, man,
Hey,
can you show me?"
let me see your leg. Let me see your scarring. Did it catch your hang down?
Yeah,
You still got both your balls? You good to go?
just for clarity.
Oh fuck. So you're in, well, not Seattle anymore, but you used to live in Seattle, and you were there during the whole $15 minimum wage BS, and that's a topic that a lot of people are heated on both ends about. Like they're the passionate people who are like, we need a fucking livable wage, and this whole $7.25, $7.50, $8, whatever the fuck it was, isn't cutting it. And I mean, if you've ever lived in Seattle or looked to move to Seattle, there is no motherfucking way that you can survive there, even full-time job or 2 jobs making minimum wage. Like, you're not going to live in a house or an apartment down there for that much money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think $15 an hour makes sense. But even that, I mean, I don't think that's a livable wage up here. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's it. It's some people are passionate, both ways.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if there's a middle ground or not. But I can tell you that, I work with some people that are pretty wealthy, and come from a lot more money, and I work with some folks that are on that lower scale, and I think living in Seattle right now is really hard for that we have so much big business that's kind of eating up our area.
Yeah. When I was up there, I remember seeing like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft all in this fucking quadrant right around the like main hub of downtown.
Yeah. I mean, I know Amazon, owns like South Lake Union of Seattle. It's just a whole area, and just Amazon owns it. It's like, so it's crazy, that $15 an hour or whatever. It's not. It's in different states, different cities.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't
different
think it should
story
be
with that.
federally minimum wage at $15 an hour, but definitely in places like Washington where the cost of living is just astronomical. Like even in the suburbs, you're looking at paying $1,600 to rent a shitty little house. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even seen. I know actually. I don't, when I was living in Ballard area of Seattle, so just a borough essentially of Seattle.
yeah,
That was $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment.
yeah,
I mean that's it's kind of crazy. It feels like New York. So
yeah. I mean,
things are really changing.
it's probably on its way. It definitely looks a lot different from when I used to work down there. That's for goddamn sure. Because I remember just a bunch of vacant lots or like shitty little mom and pop businesses that were like on the verge of going under for years that are finally just gone. And now there's places like the Peddler and fucking the apartments you were living in that are popping up all over the place. So I'm glad.
Yeah, they know how to appeal to those folks, So.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that they raised the minimum wage. And I keep seeing articles and shit pop up that are saying that it's stimulated job growth and the economy in general. Like, it's actually doing the exact opposite of what everyone was saying that it would. Like, everyone was worried that all these businesses were going to go under and blah, 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 blah. But I feel like if you can't afford to pay a livable wage, then your business model is flawed to begin with. You're trying to, like, skew all the profits to the owners and shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. I think with the minimum wage thing working out, I like the idea of moving it to $15 an hour, especially in Seattle.
Yeah.
But it is a stimulator. You change something, to try to make it more affordable. For affordable living, affordable everything, by increasing the salary gap. But I think the best part of that change is recognizing that, changes, larger scale changes are possible if the people really push for them. So, I mean, it worked out in Seattle, and it's happening around the country in different cities too. So it's
Yeah.
just given a lot of people an opportunity to actually make a livable wage and stop living on more, a plethora of
food
government
stamps.
benefits, which
Yeah.
is a good thing. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a perfect segue into the next shit I want to talk about, but the change and people pushing for it all over the country. I mean, weed. Weed is the huge top, well, I don't know if it's huge to everyone, but it's a big fucking deal in the circles that I run in and the things that I am paying attention to, just because I think weed should be legal both medically, recreationally, and all of that shit. But Washington was what, the second state to legalize recreationally?
I think so. Yeah, I think
accurate?
Colorado and Seattle were at the same time. Or, Washington and Colorado rather. I think that was, in the same year. So.
Yeah. And we used to throw down back in the day, but you've long since been retired from the weed game.
To be honest, it's not because I don't want to. I just in my mind, I don't think I'm strong enough anymore. I'm just too weak these days to be able to actually process that and make things happen. I kind of shut down, but
You're just going to be couch locked for the whole high.
yeah, I'll probably lock myself in a room and just be pouring water on my face. Wake up.
It's just
What's
a bad
happening?
dream. It's just a bad dream.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can they hear me? Can they hear me?
I went up there that time that I hung out with you and Sarah, and I went to a fucking weed shop and bought, I think it was like $25 for a solid gram or some shit like that. And me and Dylan, we ran over to his place, and I smoked I took 3 hits from this bowl. And back in the day, we'd smoke an eighth throughout a daytime period and just be perfectly okay. But this, I took 3 hits and I lost my goddamn mind. I left the planet. We were watching YouTube videos of just the dumbest shit imaginable and laughing our asses off to the point of tears. So, yeah, weed's definitely changed. But I hope that it keeps pushing and legalization happens. Colorado's making a shitload of money off of it. I don't know if Washington's published their income profits or their tax profits from weed legalization, but I don't see how they could go into a deficit with this brand new cash flow unless the federal government comes in and takes all the fucking money. But even then, they just seized millions of dollars worth of fucking tax funds. But
yeah, I think, yeah, man. When it comes to Washington and Colorado and nationwide legalization, it's just a matter of time. I mean, I think maybe I think just in what I've seen in my lifetime so far, it went from being a terrible drug to legal in my state. Just
Yeah.
in a few short years.
Yeah.
Even in high school, it was illegal. I mean, it's never been a big deal here.
Yeah.
But I think, around the country and some other cities it is, but they're seeing the profit gains, the safety. I'm a drinker, I'm not an alcoholic or anything. But
but you'd rather
I
drink
think,
the booze.
yeah. But no, I think, it is more unsafe to drink, in a lot of ways. I've done both and experienced both, and in a lot of ways, it's independent of the person, but it's a lot safer, in my opinion, to do that. So, it would make sense that states would start to legalize it as an alternative to that, to drinking, as well as, a profit margin, which is a very large one. So.
Oh yeah, especially tax wise, the taxes on weed is what, 30 something %, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I heard that. I think I heard it was 30%. So.
That's a huge fucking markup.
Yeah.
If the nation were to do that and all of the stoners start, because you're gonna pay $8 for a joint, a joint and you're going to be high for the whole fucking day, as opposed to $8 for a drink when you're going to drink that and then you're going to be like maybe starting to get your buzz on. Then you're going to spend another $8 and then leave the bar and you've spent like $300 on fucking booze. It's more economical for sure to just get high. And I think it's easier to be responsibly high than it is to be responsibly drunk. I feel like you can...
Yeah, I don't know that there is a responsibly drunk. You know, people will argue that, I'm sure, you know, saying like, well, I go out and I only have like 2 beers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, you know.
I mean, it's doable. You can go out and drink your 2 beers and then catch an Uber home or whatever, but I feel like the margin to fuck up and do something stupid is a lot smaller when you're drunk than it is when you're high. I feel like when you're high, you're like, I don't really want to interact with people, so I'm not going to leave the house. I'm just going to order pizza and play these fucking video games. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think it's the risk factor is much lower. You know,
yeah. Yeah. You're definitely not going to go all reefer madness and go on a goddamn killing spree if you're stoned.
No.
That takes so much effort, man. Fuck. But speaking of booze, you and Jake, you said that you two you started your own batch of an IPA or some shit. You're brewing.
Yeah. We like signed up and like did a class a couple weeks back, and like me and Jake were pretty much on the train. Like, let's do it, man. And I'd been talking to Jake for a few months about it. And he kind of been pushing me like, hey, let's make it happen. We went to the class, ended up walking out of there with the stuff we needed to get this brew going.
Yeah.
And just, today, you know, actually earlier today, knocked out our first batch, and it's fermenting in the other room right now. It's sitting on it for a couple of weeks, and then it'll be ready to go.
Oh shit. That's pretty killer. So what's the process after the fermentation? Like, do you have to filter it and like scrape off mold, or what's the deal with that shit?
Yeah. So essentially after fermentation, so after the next couple of weeks, we'll go straight to bottle. So we should be able to bottle all the foam. Everything should be done. There shouldn't be a lot. We'll get like a little bit of residual. I don't know what you'd call it, but like just leftover beer particles.
Yeah.
That we'll try to avoid getting into the bottling process. But for now, we're just going to try to like play it by ear and see how this batch goes. And I mean, we're pretty motivated. We're pretty moto about this. So we'll probably get that. We'll probably get cooking on the next batch here in a couple of weeks, and just keep perfecting the craft, man. Maybe one day it'll be a brewery in our future. You never know. So.
Oh shit! Well, you'll have to throw out like an average ghost lager or some shit, and we'll team up.
Oh, absolutely, man, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So is it the fermentation like that continues in the bottle that makes it carbonated, or do you guys carbonate it as it's being bottled?
Yeah. So we actually add a compound to the beer, or to the fermentation process right before bottling. So a week before, we add some sugar, essentially.
Yeah.
To the fermentation, to the bucket. So we'll add that in, and then that will actually be our carbonate when we go to bottle. That'll be the carbonation when we go to bottle. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. That kind of makes sense. So basically just the breakdown of the sugar causes the CO2 and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Word. That's pretty legit, man.
Yeah.
It's always cool to hear the cool stuff that my friends are doing, like kind of living vicariously through all of you guys still doing cool shit, because I'm stuck at the house going to school.
No way, man. I think you're like the hero of the group right now. You got like this successful podcast going, man.
I don't know
like
about successful. We've got like five fucking listeners.
Well, you know, man, you guys got it together, man. I think you guys are making great moves. You know, school's great. It was great for me. You know, I think that's always a topic for debate, right? You know, school and education, and you know, Dylan with his work and home ownership, you know, and the average ghost gym. You know, I mean, he's killing it, man. He's doing great things, man.
Yeah, he just needs to figure out when he can actually be back on the goddamn podcast.
Yeah, I keep seeing all his posts on Facebook, man. So
Yeah.
You know he's got time, man. He's better get on here soon.
Yeah, quit playing with your fucking dog and get on this shit.
Yeah, man, I need this for work. You know, I gotta do something while I'm at work, and if you guys aren't putting out podcasts, what am I gonna do?
For sure. Well, he said tomorrow he should be able to throw down on one. So this will probably be our Monday podcast, and then whichever one we throw down on tomorrow or the next day will be our Thursday one. So
right on, man.
Yeah, and I've decided that even if he can't make it to the podcast, I'll probably do like a quick little solo half-hour one like I did the other day. But I got to work on formulating my thoughts for the solo shit, because that's a lot. That's a whole nother animal when you're not talking to somebody. That's
a lot of work, man. That's a lot of work.
It's weird. Like right now I'm staring at a computer, but I see your face and we're communicating, so it works. But when I have no feedback and you get lost, like you were talking about how you were afraid you're going to just lock up when we started this shit. But if that happens when I'm by myself, it's kind of just like, all right, well, now I'm a loser all by myself.
You know, I think it's funny you bring this up about like getting lost or talking to yourself or like talking to somebody else and bring up that communication method. I like used to do these training videos at work, and I'd like have to give them to new hire groups.
Yeah.
And they'd come in and I'd like make them watch this video. I'd make them watch this video.
You're gonna fucking watch this.
And we'd make them watch it, you know, and they'd come in or whatever. There's this, you know, party. I work in HR, you know, so which is pretty funny, I think.
That you are in HR.
Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious. Even the people I work with laugh about it. But, so we bring these folks in, and they come in and sit down to watch this video. And I'm like breaking down, super serious. I'm like, you know, sexual harassment, you know, like it's not tolerated, you know, so on and so forth, you know, about policies. Yeah. And very serious to the letter. Then I put this video on, and it's things not to do with your coworkers. And there's a scene where one of these two associates that work together are talking, and another guy is also part of this team, but he recently took time off for having like some mental issues, and so that's kind of the sensitivity of the training. Well, these two girls are talking about him, and one kind of whispers to the other and goes, "Man, I hope I don't have to work with Brian. I heard he spent the last month in a mental institution." And the other one goes, "Oh, that's crazy." And she's like, "I have to work with Brian next week. I have all these like major projects. I have like 5 projects. So I don't know how I'm going to get this done without, you know, with him on my team." And the other lady says to her, she goes, "I don't know, man. I heard, you know, he has all these personalities. You might be able to get the work done twice as fast." Every time I hear it, I lose my mind, dude. I have to leave the room now. Like my coworkers won't even let me sit in anymore. They're just like, "Scott, you got to get out of here, man. You can't sit in this part."
You did the intro, and now your services are no longer required.
Exactly. So I just can't. How are you going to get all that work done? You know, it's crazy, man.
Oh my God. You're the least fucking PC HR person in the world.
For sure.
Oh, fuck. That's awesome. So how do you feel about Donald Trump? I know that's
dude, I fucking hate Donald Trump. I honestly fucking hate the guy. Like, like I want to be reasonable about it, but I just can't be. I just can't. I don't understand. You know, I watch him. I just think politics in general are fucking frustrating because they're never the people that should run your country. You know, they're never the right people. There's always a flaw. Someone always hates them. I don't think we do it the right way. You know, I think democracy is great. I think voting and majority is great, but I don't think. I just think that we just don't have it right. I don't have the answer to what would be right, how we should do it, but I don't think it's the way we do it. But Donald Trump, man, it's a joke to me. But you know, a person told me when I was pretty young about voting and what was important, and they were like, "Never vote, you know, for a candidate, a hateful candidate, someone who preaches hate."
Yeah.
And that guy is like the epitome.
Pure fucking hate.
Yeah, it's just straight hatred, you know, and I think that's what drives him. You know, he just, whatever his life was like before, or wherever he got to where he got, um, you know, it isn't the way most people live their lives or get to where they're going. And I think, you never want to elect a leader that's just has that much hate. It's
Yeah.
scary.
Well, what I don't understand, like I've gotten, I don't know, some flack, I guess, but I don't know, it's all Facebook shit. Like I get into these Facebook arguments, but because I was in the army, I've got all of these veteran friends and shit like that, or people who are still in, and they're all about the Republican Party. Like they just can't help themselves because the Republicans are synonymous with military finding or financing.
Yeah.
But I got in this one argument with this dude because he's obviously, I don't know if he supports Trump full out, but he keeps talking about how Trump's not that bad of a guy and how he needs to hear actual arguments against Trump instead of just everything that the media starts saying and whatnot. And I posted something about how he was a bigot and how he's misogynistic and all that shit. Just basically like, these are two reasons why I wouldn't vote for him, because he fucking hates Mexicans or illegal immigrants, we'll say,
Yeah.
with air quotations.
Mexicans. Yeah.
And he doesn't like women. And so I said he was a misogynist and a bigot. Like, those are right there. Like, that's just off-putting to me. It doesn't really have anything to do with his policies, but if that's what fuels him as a person, like, that right there is enough for me to be like, I don't want you in office if you're going to be a dick in the runnings. But then this fucking dude who was my wife's old, I don't know if she was actually, or if he was actually like her squad leader, but he was an NCO in her company when she first got here. He started posting all this shit, just going off on like the standard rhetoric that the Republicans give to defend Trump, like blah, blah, blah. I don't know. He's going to make America great again and all this dumb shit. And then he had the gall to say that he always told his soldiers to think for themselves, and obviously I'm letting the media do my thinking for me. And my thought was, just because I don't think like him, he's fucking saying that I'm not thinking for myself. Like, what goddamn sense does that make? But, yeah, I got a little heated about that shit.
Yeah, I think, I think with Trump and, people, the way they vote, they attach to the people they feel are most similar to their beliefs and what they believe should be the way we should run the country, whether it's ahead of the leader or head of the pack leader or not. I think I'm a big Bernie fan. I like what Bernie's dishing out.
Yeah.
I'm not a Hillary fan at all. I wouldn't even never even consider myself a Democrat or Republican. I wouldn't. And
I don't even see how she is in the fucking running. Like, with all that Benghazi shit, like, how the fuck are you even a candidate, bitch? Like, peace.
I don't know, man. I think it's the last name, like, yeah. I heard this joke at work though. There's a joke that Ronald Reagan just could never figure out how to get that third term. And Clinton figured out how to get a third term.
With Hillary.
Yeah. But no, I think Bernie's cool, man. I think he might not be the greatest choice, but I think he's the greatest of these three.
Yeah.
Or four, or whoever, But I think just people are, and we talked a little bit about it, but people are afraid of the word socialism or socialist.
Yeah.
And I don't identify myself as a socialist, but I would encourage anybody who doesn't know what their political preference or background would be to think about breaking up into a small group with just your friends and play like a game. Play a game where you have to complete a task and figure out complete a task, and everyone has to have certain tools or some tools or no tools.
Yeah.
And just see how that shakes out. I think that you'd be shocked at how you actually in your brain work that out to be not like you work out in your mind, like what's fair, what's accurate, what's the best way. And I think a lot of the times, not everybody, but I think a lot of the times people will work that out to be a system that's fair to everybody as opposed to not, And I think with Bernie and with his approach as with a liberal, I think brings a great amount of light to the fact that there are certain inequalities, and I don't think not white privilege, or anything like that. I think privilege in general, but I think you would eliminate so many of that thought process if education was free. If everybody had the right and access to education, healthcare. Those are two of the main things in this country that separate the middle class from the top tier and the poor as well. So I think that's it's such a great opportunity for this country to make that happen for so many inequality reasons. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know if this is going to come out right and if I'm going to piss a bunch of people off, but I feel like white privilege and black oppression are kind of manufactured. Like, I agree that shit was fucked up in the past and that there are certain things that are still unequal and still fucked up now, but I feel like the light is being shown on the wrong aspects of it. I feel like it's a rich and poor inequality and not a white and black inequality, because you've got people like fucking Al Sharpton who's up there making hand over fist money, and he hasn't really done anything other than get outraged when other people get outraged. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I see the same issues with poor white neighborhoods that I see in poor black neighborhoods. Like, it's just, I feel like it's a wealth inequality and not so much a color issue. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's being manufactured to draw attention away from the real problems.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I brought this up multiple times in discussions with, peers, coworkers, friends, family. I think, I believe it's almost the exact same thing. It's almost verbatim, the way I feel about things. I think the discrepancy between the middle class, it's like, the discrepancy between that gap it's unbelievable, and because of that, it creates so many biases and misrepresentations. That is the creator of that. So because of that, you get all these inequality issues. And I think when you start to change and you give people access to the right things like healthcare and education, no matter what, no matter who you are, the only people that don't want that are people that feel like they're at an advantage to keep other people from getting that, and I think I hear all the time, people talk about like how white privilege is a thing and, there's so much bias here, here and there. And I've seen both those things. I've seen some of that privilege play out, and I've also seen it be the other way, where some, someone with a specific background or heritage gets accepted to a college that maybe somebody like me wouldn't get accepted to, purely based on the diversity numbers that they need to reach. So I've seen it play out so many ways that it's not, hasn't really affected my life, in a way that I think is unfair to just one specific race.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to sound ignorant or whatever, but I feel like the whole diversity thing and the I don't know if affirmative action is a fucking politically correct term, but I feel like those are fake. They're false, like, acceptance and false tolerance. Like, it's not, you didn't win the battle because we're just going to say, okay, well, we'll give you this much to kind of make you feel like you got something, and we're just going to keep doing what the fuck we're doing, and this will get you to shut up. Like, I feel like it's not a full-blown win. It's more of just an appeasement. Like, hey, I'll give you this much ground. You shut the fuck up now and let me go about my business. Like, it just makes my stomach turn because it's not an equal playing field. Like, and I feel like it's unfair to both sides. Like, I feel like the best people for the job should get the jobs and not just because they need to hit certain numbers for shit. Like, but that in turn comes with education and all of that shit. So that's where our focus needs to be, is on equalizing the playing field for education to where everyone is equal and can compete, or not everyone is equal, but everyone has the equal opportunity to pursue the betterment of their situation. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a fucked up world, and I feel like capitalism is failing. And I feel like I don't. Oh no! Oh no! We lost him. All right, we're back. We lost connection with Skype for a second, so I had to ramble on for a little bit, and then it sounded like shit. So Scott's back now, and where we left off was I feel like capitalism's failing because it's created a system where services that are supposed to be for the people and to help the people, like the police force, healthcare, shit like that, they've become an profit-driven corporation to where they have quotas and they have certain levels that you need to be a member of, like in the healthcare system, in order to get the proper service and shit like that. Like, yeah, I feel like capitalism's failing. So maybe it is time that we take a more socialistic approach to shit. Like, I don't know. How do you feel about that whole deal? I know you've got a beef with the popo, but we can get into that in a second. Let's finish out the political talk.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you said it well. I think now is a really good chance to start to redirect and change course. Sometimes there's a cash cow, so to speak, where you can do the same thing and kind of continue to profit from that, or continue to live out the same principles, and it works out well to a certain extent. And then things change, and it's time to reevaluate where you are, where you sit, and what you guys value now, and what's important to you. And I think now is the perfect opportunity for that with Bernie or another candidate, whoever it is or whenever it is. We're pretty much reaching that point. We have a lot of compassion for the people we live with. And live around. I also have a lot of folks that, they have the opportunity to kind of, live together a little bit more. I think Seattle's grown from, I want to say it was 500,000 people in 2008 or 2007 to like 1 point something in the Seattle, in the city. So there's more than twice as many people here in the last 7 or 8 years. And it's like that around the world and around in our country. There's more and more people. So we need to figure out a way to live differently. It's the way that it worked before made sense when there was less folks, especially in our country. And now it's time to reevaluate.
Yeah, there was less people and more opportunity, and now it's more people and less opportunity. Like, capitalism's great because it gives you the opportunity. There's more opportunities for entrepreneurship and shit like that, but at the same time, the general job market just kind of completely fucking sucks dick right now. So yeah, and I had a history teacher in I think it was my junior year of high school, like right before I dropped out, but he said that we are a capitalistic, democratic, socialist republic. Like, those are the principles that we took, meshed together, and created America with. And I don't think a lot of people realize that we have elements of socialism. Like, America is, let's say, 10% socialist. So if you're really afraid of socialism, you already need to get the fuck out of the country, because we are a socialist nation in some respects. So
yeah, and a lot of major countries are I don't know, like quote unquote like socialist, lots of countries, live by those values. This isn't a new thing, it's not communism. It's not the same thing. Yeah. If you don't want to be a tomato farmer, you don't have to be a tomato farmer, but I mean, there's, it's like anywhere else, people like routine, it's easier to live in routine or to want to go backwards, in my opinion, than it is to ever move forward. It's always easier to like go to what's comfortable or what you think than what you don't know. So.
Yeah. And I think that now is not the time for backsliding and letting the 1%ers take even more control over what we do and how we do shit. And that brings up the argument that Trump has his own money and he doesn't have to fucking accept bribes from people and shit. Well, lobbyist donations from people. but he is in the same bracket as those lobbyist douchebags. So who's to say that he's not friends with those guys? And he's like, oh man, hey, just hold on to your money because I don't need it. So I'll still do you that solid though. I'll still make sure the EPA doesn't check on your shit that you're dumping into this lake and poisoning all these people. But you can keep your money. Like it, yeah.
Oh, I guarantee that will happen.
just because he's got his own money doesn't mean that he's not going to be like, oh, bro, I got you. Don't worry about it. Like, he's already used to backdoor shady bullshit deals. Like, he could just say, no, hold on to that money until I'm out of office and then give it to me. But I'll do all those backdoor shits for you. Like, he's a shady fucking business dude.
I could definitely see him, doing that. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's not even a, it's like a novelty item. I honestly think a lot of people are voting for it. He's like a novelty. He's like Arnold Schwarzenegger running in California. It's like, it's a common thing. We want to vote for those people. Like Ronald Reagan was an actor. I mean, there's so many these people that are leaders or whatever. We make them good leaders. It's or not. And we decide who we think it should be or whatnot. But also like it's kind of a pony. A dog and pony show. I mean, it's kind of a, they want to see a goofy race. It's a joke to a lot of people, like, hey, look at this guy. Can you believe this guy's running? I'm going to vote for him. I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah. It's become a fucking reality TV show. It's The Apprentice 2.0 pretty much. But, earlier we kind of touched on it, but I wanted to save it for the closing segment. But, the police, I know you've got some poop to sling their way. Do you want to dive into that story?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into it a little bit. I mean, the gist of it is just that me and my wife now and my couple of good friends were just out at a bar and standing outside of it, and one person had an open container, and it turned into a real power struggle, and the police ended up kind of, going kind of crazy, and they punched me in the head with handcuffs wrapped around their fist. They punched me, over 25 times, all caught on video. Did
that make it onto World Star or anything like that? Is there anywhere people can see?
I don't know where. I don't know. I mean, I saw it up a few times, but. I'm sure that there's like something, somewhere someone's got it. It's been like for me, just like trying to forget it kind of thing. But it's one of those things where you're just like, you're shocked at what happens, like an open container and asking a question or, that someone in a position of power can completely take that into their own hands. I mean, more, what happened with the story is end up going to court or whatever on felony charges, for, felony assault on a police officer for touching him, which is just insane, which I didn't even do that. So it's kind of crazy, but all those charges were dropped. All that was, let go. I mean, with the video evidence and whatnot, but it was a real battle. It took a long time to get through. And I mean, they hit me, they hit my wife, they hit, just they hit everybody. They arrested everybody and charged them all with these crimes. And it really opened my eyes up to what happens in policing. I'm not saying it's everywhere. Some people are great cops. Some cities have great cops. Some cities don't, some cities don't care. Some cities will hire anybody. It doesn't matter, who they are, what the process is. And I think, it's coming to show up, that a lot of people, if you want to be a cop, you're doing it for a couple different reasons, most likely. One, you're, in my opinion, you want to like do the right thing and help out and, help be the middleman between that, between justice and, enforcement. And then there's the other side of that wants that power, and, we had to do everything we can to minimize police forces. And, in my opinion, and then, in that shorten up kind of, individuals need to take the power themselves essentially. And they need to, be able to enforce as a group, and then reinforce the people around them and use education to teach. And, I mean, the way we're doing things is insane to me. And it still is kind of it baffles me to think about, that somebody like from my background, from what I do, like
Yeah.
a college graduate, and everybody involved, and so could just be, beaten by the police and then nothing happens to the police. I mean, the charges eventually got dropped, but, nothing happens to any of them. And, it doesn't seem to matter what city you live in or what race you are. It happens to everybody. It seems like,
Yeah.
not every person, just every, it
A-
could be any race or gender. It's insane.
Anyone who goes contrary to what the cop is trying to tell you to
Hmm.
do at that
Yeah.
moment, even if
Yeah.
it's
Or even if
completely
you are
against
doing
your
it.
fucking the rights that you have, and the
Yeah.
cop doesn't like the fact that you're standing up for your own rights that you were given by the Constitution, and they'll just flip the fuck out and drop some false bullshit on you. And weren't you saying, we talked about this a long time ago, but weren't you saying that like the cops aren't allowed to admit wrongdoing at all, or it's just frowned upon, or
Yeah,
some
they
shit?
can't. So if an officer were to be involved in an officer involved incident that led to charges, or they were being accused of a crime, um, like for instance, if I was like, yeah, this cop used excessive force. If the cop admitted that he used excessive force or that he was in the wrong in any way, that cop, based on the contracts that the unions have with the cities, specifically my cities of Seattle, um, if they admit the guilt, they can be let go from the police department. If they don't admit guilt, they can keep their job almost no matter what. I mean, we had multiple shootings out here where the officer wouldn't admit guilt, even though he was found guilty in court, and still kept his job. Or they still keep their job. So it's weird that you'd reinforce that you'd want them to. It's incentivizing not being honest, which is the
Yeah,
weirdest thing when they're in a position where they're trying to make people tell the
honest.
truth and be honest.
Yeah,
So,
it's that's a weird fucking concept. Like, wouldn't you want the checks and balances to be there for those people? Like, even in the military, in a place where we are at war, there are checks and balances and rules. Like, you can't just go off and shoot random people because they're not fucking obeying your commands. Like, you there are rules of engagement, and we don't even have that in the police force here on domestic fucking grounds. Like, cops are shooting people, and then they have an incentive to not admit to wrongdoing. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's fucking
yeah, that
stupid.
too. I think, man, this kind of and this like spans like a ton of political ideals, but um, like it comes back to should police officers be carrying guns, like the daily beat, or should those cops not be carrying guns and
Just
like
have
a special
tasers or
team
some
carries
shit.
guns?
Yeah.
And then after what I saw, dude, I'm lucky they didn't shoot me, dude. It blows my mind. Like I'm serious,
Yeah.
like I've watched the video multiple times, and the cop goes for his gun multiple times. He doesn't pull it out, but he goes for it, and it's
And
insane to me that happened.
I can just imagine thinking, like, oh shit, just watching the video, like, I could have died here here
Hmm.
and right there. Like, yeah, that's fucked.
Yeah, it was crazy, but I think I don't this is my opinion, but I don't think that in the UK they don't carry guns. Their police officers don't carry guns. In New Zealand they don't carry guns. In Australia they don't carry guns. This is not a new thing, to not carry guns. And I'm not saying that no one should have the right to own guns or whatever. I don't know, but I know that I don't think police officers should be. I think their job is to enforce the law. But it's definitely not to take the law into their own hands. And it happens so much. And anytime you can pull a gun out, it changes a situation that sometimes you just can't come back from. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a risky position to be a cop when you're the aggressor, or is it more, is it a risky, or at risk job if, you're not the aggressor? I think you're going to have far less cops dying, in my opinion, uh, and far less, safety issues with police if they weren't carrying guns,
Yeah.
than if they were. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where they take our guns away. Like, if they tried to take guns away from the people, I feel like that would be a civil war with all of the crazies that are out there. Like, I'm all for having guns. I love shooting guns. I have fun with it. I feel like you should have a right to protect your own shit. Like, I'm all about guns. But not to the point where I see a lot of people, like, on Facebook, like, over my cold, dead body and shit like that. Like, it's not that serious.
I mean, I have guns, you know, and I like to go shoot guns, and it's fun for me, you know, and I think I have the right to protect my property and myself. Although you really have very limited rights, even when people think they do or they know the letter of the law. I would encourage them to really look into that, because majority of people I've spoken with, you know, even lawyers, you know, they're always like, if you think you know, you don't know. There's always a way around it. There's always a way for them to get through. There's so many loopholes that have to do with it. It's insane.
Yeah. Like, there has to be this perfect storm of events for you to be able to legally defend your property with a gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It has to be the third Sunday of the month and fucking right. Before noon.
Yeah, and it's crazy how they do that with guns, you know, like how they regulate it. Like, I think, you know, and it's you know, I think the proof's kind of in the pudding as far as what, you know, mental testing, more extensive testing, or prerequisite, so to speak, for getting a gun. Most likely this is probably a better idea. You know, I mean, I know it's unfortunate to those who suffer from those issues, but it's weird. It's weird to me, right? Like, if like even today, if someone came to me and were like, yo, you know, Scott, you can't own guns anymore. We have to take your guns. I'd be like, no, fuck you. I'd be pissed. But yeah. If someone came to me and was like, hey, we took all the guns, you have to give up your guns, I'd be like, okay. You know, I'd
as
give
long
it up.
as it's not just me.
If this is what's best for everyone, you know, then I'd be okay with it. But
yeah.
But I don't want to give it up, and I don't think that's the answer to stopping, you know, crime. It's definitely not that, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, it's quite to the contrary, you know. With in Amsterdam, you know, they legalized all these drugs, and they had all their crime rates dropped. Like, I don't want to. I think it was 21%, but 21% decrease in crime, like, just from legalizing drugs. It's like, that's insane, you know. Like, they're what's it called when it's like an aggressive crime?
I don't fucking know, but
I can't think.
I know what you're talking about, like violent crimes.
Yeah, violent crime. Yeah, so like violent crimes decreased by 50% from when they legalized marijuana in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
which is fucking insane. Like, that's like crazy, man. Like, what? I don't know what the correlation is, you know, and I don't know all the science behind it, and I don't know if those numbers, you know, I heard those numbers. I didn't do my own research there, but you know, I think it's crazy how things can change like that, you know. So I think you know, the safety of others sometimes over our own, you know, interests is a lot more important. You know?
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like that all comes back to the leveling the playing field kind of shit. Like, if we had a less vast separation between the classes as far as wealth goes or opportunity, there wouldn't be nearly as much crime. So you level the playing field. The people have the opportunity to get jobs. They're not as poor. The poverty line goes up more or down. I don't know which way that's supposed to go. But less people are in poverty, and therefore they don't have to fucking steal or sell drugs illegally and shit like that. Like, I don't know. It's
I totally agree with you. I think you educate the people, you take care of the people, you know, you educate them, you make sure that they're healthy, and you give them the opportunity to be healthy, as well as the opportunity to gain that knowledge and you know, education that they need. I think you give them those opportunities, and you know, you're going to see drastic changes when it comes to everything that we do. You know, everything, for every person, for every race, for every gender, everything. It's going to change because those opportunities now are every single person starts at the same starting line.
Yeah.
And they get to choose their ending line. They really do, because they have all those opportunities. It's not like the old American privilege, or the American dream where you could be anything you want. That's not true. That's just something we tell people so that, they feel like they could be that. That's not the truth, and
Yeah.
it's funny because, it takes a lot of work to get to a lot of places, but you can't be anything you want to be.
Oh,
There's
fuck
so
no.
many things that have to do with that, and it's just, it's kind of crazy to think that anyone could do anything. So
Yeah. There's a George Orwell quote from fucking what was it, Animal Farm, that I think sums up where we're at in America nowadays. It's the all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. Like that's
that's a great quote.
that's where we are in our life right now, or in America. Is they want to preach that there's this American dream, but you have to work hard for it, but you're starting miles behind everyone else. The starting line is not the same for everyone.
No, it's not. Everyone starts at a different point. Whether or not, and I've had this debate with a lot of people. Like, I'm not afraid to bring up risky topics. And
Yeah.
I'll talk with people about it. And I have a coworker that I brought it up with, and they were asking me that they're an African American guy, and he's saying that because of that he was kept from doing what he wants to do. That it's not a possibility. And I was like, well, why can't you do that? Like, what are your restrictions? What's restricted you? And he's like, oh, it's because I'm black. I was like, well, what kind of family do you come from? And he's like, well, my mom and my dad are together. My dad's a lawyer, and my mom's an eye doctor, like an optometrist.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think you're at a disadvantage. I think, you're at a extremely high advantage. You're just not able to recognize that, because what your predisposition of thought is that because of one flaw as you see it, or as you think other people see, you can't get to where you want to go. Although you're in a much better position than so many white people or Asian or Mexican. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're in such a better position to move light years above them with what your family and parents have done.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, if your parents hadn't done that, you'd be in a totally different situation.
For real. He was fucking better starting line than I was. Like, my dad worked at a warehouse and my mom was unemployed. Like, he had
me too.
a much better starting line than I had.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always different. I mean, we know that too, because like me and someone that is, was a good friend of ours that had a lot of opportunities, like extreme, unbelievable opportunities. And were never able to really recognize that they were getting those opportunities, and kind of always felt slighted.
Are we talking about the dude in the basement?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It end up inherently affecting his life really negatively for a long time. So.
Yeah, I remember going over there and just being like, holy fuck, if I had these circumstances, I'd be fucking famous by now. Like, Jesus.
Yeah. It's crazy that we kind of always see our slights and never see our advantages, and I think that's like a flaw. A lot of people, like the blindness that we just don't see it. So
yeah,
it's one thing. Like, I know you guys have talked about goals a lot, and I think one of the goals that I had set for myself, years ago, I never been able to do is to like try to take a step back from, what I understand to be fact, and just be a listener, which is really hard for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But to be a listener and try to like understand situations and people, and just be better at that. It's like a really like ambiguous goal, but it's something that I've wanted to understand and do for a long time, and I've been like trying to do that over this last couple of months. But I think it's so crucial for people to really listen. I think you had talked a couple of podcasts back too about kids, and or maybe it might have been a Facebook post too, but just kids in general not knowing what's out there, what to do. And I think like kick the can, I think was your example, and I agree with you in a lot of ways. I think we're just kind of taken away, and we don't do the things that like the simple things like listen and share and do things together outside and be a part of a community as opposed to an individual. And I think it's very well connected, and it really is a crazy, crazy life, man.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when you spend all of your time on Facebook or in communities like the internet, like you gravitate towards things and people that have your same mindsets on the internet, because you can search blah, 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 fucking I love A, B, and C. And then you start talking to those people and they reaffirm your beliefs, and you don't grow from something like that. You continue to just sink deeper and deeper into one train of thought, and you don't grow as this wide, expansive human being. So yeah, I feel like being in the real world and running around and playing in the woods and all that shit, you have more opportunity to have multiple trains of thought as opposed to just the one. And that's kind of where I'm getting stuck right now, is because I get up, go to school, come home, go to the gym, and then do it all over again. So I'm kind of getting sucked into this pattern of being stuck in my own head. So I might need to go and join some sort of community outreach bullshit or something, as awful as that sounds.
No, yeah, it's such a weird thing. There's so many different things you can do, but I mean, the way to grow is to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is to learn a new skill. And typically a new skill means you didn't have it before, and therefore you're most likely uncomfortable. So you got to make yourself uncomfortable. And once you're comfortable with that, you move on to the next thing, and you start adding these things to your tool belt as a human being, which is a good thing. If you grew up in one city and one place your whole life, and you learned one thing, and you had one type of friend, and you have, you listen to what your parents believed was fact, and you never really thought for yourself, you're not, in my opinion, it's not a lot of growth there. And I understand people don't want that, but it's not just about them. It's about everybody. Yeah. You have to be a part of this thing, and you get a voice in this machine, and your voice should be educated. Your voice should be important, and you need to make it that way. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. But we are at 6 minutes over the hour, so we made it. I know you were worried that you weren't going to be able to talk on Skype for more than an hour just because you've never done it before, but you did it. Milestone.
Right on, man. Yeah, I'm stoked, dude. That's great.
Yeah. Good time. Do you have anything you want to pimp or promote, or do you just kind of individualized and not really in the public eye?
No, man. Just living my dream, dude. But no, man. Yeah, just everybody keep listening to this. These guys got a good thing going, and I encourage you guys to just be a part of this, and add to those blogs, like shoot Newman some messages, and Dylan, and I hope you guys keep powering through and keeping this thing going. It's something special, so.
Yeah, well, we're enjoying it, so I'll keep it moving. And yeah, like he said, shoot me an email. Like, I have no problem bringing people onto this thing. So if you have a couple of hours and you're free and you want to jump on and do a podcast, then shoot me an email and we'll set it up, kind of like I did with Scott. I think I hit you up like, half an hour before we started this? Like, hey man, you want to fucking jump on this shit? So yeah, I mean, do it up. But that has been, the 11th episode. This is the 11th episode of the Average Ghost podcast. Check us out at averageghosts.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/Average Ghosts. Mine is facebook.com/Newman9000. There is no A. I just checked it today. So I've been telling you guys the wrong shit this whole time. And then Twitter at AVG Ghosts. And I think that's it. Use Onnit, because Onnit's the shit. And Scott agrees that Onnit is the shit. And I think that's going to do it for us. So thank you very much, Scott, for coming on here and keeping me company while bullshitting for an hour. And let me know when that fucking beer finishes up, and send me a bottle if you can ship beer. I don't know if you can, but if you can, I would like to try some of the Scott and Jake brew.
Yeah, it'll be coming your way, man.
Word. All right. Take it easy, man.
See you, man.
And to all of you other listeners, later.